Hello, this is a very quick recording just to talk you through the sampling decisions that you need to make in your dissertation and to just kind of point you in the right direction, because people often get a bit stuck with this. So first of all, before you get to making a sampling decision, you need to know if you are using a qualitative method or a quantitative method. So on the left-hand side there, you can see if you're using a qualitative method, such as, say, interviews or focus groups, well, then you obviously need to pick a qualitative sampling method. And you need to make sure you distinguish between qualitative and quantitative sampling and don't muddle up the terminology that's used, because it's slightly different for both. So once you know you're doing a qualitative method, pick a qualitative sampling method. Go and have a look at the textbooks and the section they have on qualitative sampling and work your way through that. If, on the other hand, you're using a quantitative method, such as questionnaires, then you need to pick a quantitative sampling method. So let's take that to the next step. So you're doing qualitative sampling. You're going to be using a purposive sampling method. You need to think about who or what you need to take part in the study, and you need to pick a purposive sampling method that suits. Okay, and basically then you're just going to need to explain how that was put into practice. You need to justify it. I recommend going and get the textbook out and choosing a method that fits your study. If you're needing to use a quantitative sampling method, first consideration is, do you have a sampling frame? Now, if you're not sure what that is, go back and watch my first recording on sampling. If you do, which on the whole is fairly unlikely if you're doing a dissertation in the events, sport, tourism, hospitality field, but you might have. So if you have a sampling frame, then you've got scope to use a probability sampling method, as it suggests on the left-hand side there. So you might use something that's random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified, clustered, or multi-stage. Okay. Most of you are not going to have a sampling frame, and therefore you're going to use a non-probability sampling method like quota or convenience sampling. Now, bear in mind that if you do use convenience sampling, you still want to try to get this to be as representative as possible. So do think how you're going about doing this, because it can be a weakness in quantitative studies that are undertaken by students. And then finally, in your dissertation, you're going to need to have a section in your research methodology on your sampling strategy, and this is what you need to specify. You need to state what sampling strategy you're proposing or you're using in your study. You need to justify why it's an appropriate study for your study. Okay, not just general description of this kind of sampling strategy is good at X and Y. Do that, but tell us why that therefore means this strategy is appropriate for your study, and reference that with the textbooks. And then you need to explain how practically it was implemented. So how did you actually go and put this into practice? How did you get your sample out to a random selection of people to do a questionnaire? What was the sampling frame you used for that? If it was convenience sampling, explain what you tried to do to avoid some of the bias that might have occurred there. Okay, so that's it basically. So it's pretty much your kind of cooking recipe for sampling that you need to report.